interesting. To me, it's interesting because it's a perfect balance between the media that it's visualized in and the way the puppet works, right? The puppet does not move without the persistence of vision of film, right? Without the frame by frame kind of, like the puppet doesn't exist without the film. It's just,
exactly.
you know, and it's similar to like the Muppet style puppets, like those are sort of, like this sort of thing is made for a television camera. So sort of without the camera, it kind of doesn't really work. You know, the sort of focused eyes and the sort of from the waist up kind of thing. So it's sort of interesting to me to have this sort of, whenever there's like a perfect balance between the context and the object, it's great.
Yeah.
Come on, it's okay. Come on.
But like, I think, like for example, there's a show, Hand to God, where the thing that's interesting to me is like we're not sure if it's the guy who's the evil person talking about his puppet, or if it's the puppet controlling the person. You know, that kind of.
Yeah, it's an excellent performance. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like for me, that as a philosophy of like, you know, what spirit guides you or what spirit is bringing forth whatever you say and do. That's really what the connection I have to puppets.
Well, that's a very common theme. Like the when we talk about we're really going to get radical about your definition of puppetry as like a performing object.
Right.
Right. There's like sort of three critical axes there. Right. There's the performer.
Right.
There's the puppet.
Right.
And there's the audience. And without those three things, like there's no puppet at all.
Exactly.
So you need the imagination of the audience, and they're focused on the object, and you need the performer's ability to emote and animate, and the performer is focused on the object as well.
Right.
And then that's the object itself. You were playing with the dog puppet out there. You know, it makes noise. It operates a certain way. It has its own inherent behavior in it. You can think about like, oh, I want it to do this. Well, you're going to have to do what the puppet wants to do.
Exactly.
And it makes a certain noise, and it behaves in a certain way. So it's sort of like playing the drums or an instrument. Like one thing I can do is I can go, oh, I'm walking along, right? But that's not the behavior that's inherent in this thing. It has something in it. It has noise. It does that. I'd have to like play around. How would this get around? How would this object perform?
Right.
And you'd spend some time with it. And the important thing is not to impose, not to try to anthropomorphize it too much. It's just sort of say like, what does it do?
Yeah.
Like where does it, what comes from within the object? And you try to do that when you're making a puppet. So you have a character in mind. One of my favorite characters I have is Old Scratch, right? And he's like the devil, and he's kind of like kind of character. And so when you put your hand in it, you actually make a claw with your hand.
Right.
So that you're always scratching. You're always
actually
like
do that. Yeah.
pushing forward when you're performing the puppet. So that helps imbue the performance with something that comes from within the puppet and not from. You know, you have this like sort of whimsical idea that is kind of an allegory. You know, it's a little bit of a personal allegory, but then other people are seeing themselves in it. You know, like people just saying like, "Oh my God, that's me!" Oh, and I'm like, it's just a good feeling. You know?
That's my plug, but he's chill.
Yeah,